and an east or west wind is when the canal floods. You have to have all three, because if one is missing, it won't flood. It's the wind component that's really the decider.
That's interesting. It's just like wildfire.
Yes, it's very much like wildfire. Very much like wildfire. Yeah, wildfires, the ones that will get you are the thrown winds that come over a hilltop and go down instead of up.
Yeah, you're right. You know, Larry, that's why the insurance industry can't model for it.
Yeah, the fire agencies model for stuff like that. But I mean, look, the Oakland fire, that's exactly what it was, and it caught them by surprise.
Yeah, I mean, I model for it all the time, and stuff models great. But what if it's the wind factor?
I'm sorry, thank you. I almost forgot that. For January of 2023, do we have any members of the public that would like to participate? If so, please identify yourself. I guess we don't have anybody. I'm going to move on to agenda item 2, approval of the minutes from the December meeting that were ably taken by Nadine. Has everybody had a chance to review those? Do we have any changes, additions, deletions? Do I have a motion for approval?
I so move. We approve.
Dan's
second that.
approving. Ken is seconding. All in favor of accepting as is, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay. With that business out of the way, we'll move on expeditiously to item 3, the report from Donna on the Fire Foundation. Donna?
I see a name. Don't hear a voice.
Signed in, but I'm not hearing you. Okay. We'll give a little time for that, and shows up, we'll come back to it. As has been my custom, I'm going to skip over myself for first commissioner report and go right to Nadine.
Great, thank you. I couldn't unmute myself after 3 years of doing this. So nothing new to report. I've been happy watching the rains come in because of fire, and worried watching the rains come in because of the volume in such a short period of time. But again, trying to find the good piece of it is making, I just think about fire season and going into next year, and it's definitely good that we're getting some rain. So that's about it.
Yeah, definitely is that. And I saw in the IJ the other day that the reservoirs are all full and overflowing, and the water's going down to the ocean. So that's a good development in Marin County and California in general. So thank you, Nadine. Tom is not here today. He has a conflicting appointment. So Ken, anything you want to add?
No, it's been a little busy with a little flooding around here. I wanted to have a report ready for you guys. I don't have it, but it's funny, the insurance industry spin towards things, which I always try to share with you guys, where we always go to the negative. It's like, London looks at California and they go, well, let's see, they just had a 6.1 earthquake. Now they've got flooding and mudslides, and oh yeah, the wildfires are off the screen for a little bit of time, right? So that's the way they pursue, or they view California, and it's frustrating. because it is such a great state. But I don't have anything, Larry, to share with you guys this week. But I will send something out off calendar.
Okay. All right, we don't have David in here, but I'll return to him should he check in. Stan.
Nothing in the immediate sense. I did send out the Land Cruiser piece for everybody to amuse themselves with tiny trucks. But it has a bearing on what we do, but not. The one truck that we do have, there's a name for it. Is it 6?
It's a type 6.
Type 6. Okay. There's one question I guess I would have, and that is, all of our rolling stock is so big, with the exception of the one type 6 truck that we have. Is there any, this is going to sound like a crazy question, but is there any kind of scale of economy by running smaller trucks, in that under most occasions, the call is a small call, not a raging inferno where you need everything you own? Is there any reason why adding to the fleet with smaller items that are maybe a little more economical to operate make any sense, or is that outside the general operational feel for the department?
I'll start on that. I think there is definite value in having smaller quick response vehicles. There have been quite a few developed over the years that are smaller than Type 6, but they're generally like a pickup truck with some sort of sled placed on the back with some sort of extinguishing capability and a nozzle and some hose. So they have utility and they have value. The challenge you might find is who to assign that to and under what circumstances. I'll give you an example. At the airport, you can find real utility in a small quick response vehicle like that for smaller incidents that may take place on an airport that don't involve a commercial aircraft, but maybe involves a smaller general aviation aircraft or some other car fire or something similar. That being said, I don't see a lot of agencies that are municipal departments run with those type of apparatus. We tend to keep apparatus that have 2 to 3 people at minimum and have a sustained amount of water or extinguishing agent so that you can actually make a meaningful impact before the larger units and more personnel arrive. But there's certain utility in that. Looking at those Land Cruisers, there's a couple of them that look like, they could almost serve to spell a Type 6 if necessary by going off-road and trying to get some quick response in that regard. So I could certainly see utility in that in a wildland arena, as an example here in San Rafael.
Yeah, and we've had, and I've been out on fires here. 55 Upper Terrace is one that I remember pretty vividly because the road is very, very narrow, really, really tight switchbacks, and our Type 3 engine was not able to get up there. They ended up pulling 1,000 feet of hose to get to that burning house in the middle of the night. Fortunately, it was a rainy night. Fortunately or unfortunately, it was a rainy night when that fire started. But this was before we had a Type 6, and that was a situation where Type 6 probably could have gotten up there right to the fire, but again, probably only if it was the first apparatus on the scene. Because once the Type 3 was up there, nothing was getting past it, including me. I had a long haul to get up to that fire. But the Type 6 in wildland and things like that, those things are really great.
Beyond raising the question, I have nothing else to add.
Okay, we appreciate it. That was a good question. Donna, do we have you? Do we have you on board now? You are muted. Donna. There we go. We're not hearing you. Okay. Well, I'll blather on for a bit, and if we can get Donna back.
Larry,
Yeah,
sorry, just real quick, we do have an attendee that I just saw, not a panelist, by the number of 916.
932
that's that, to
3021.
Sacramento. Okay,
So,
Let me see if I can allow to talk.
mhm.
Hands up.
Donna, that's you, is what I'm hearing? Maybe. So you're muted, but we can ask you to unmute.
Which I just did.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
yes, all right. Okay,
That is me.
all right. Now that we've got Donna
Donna-
on board, let me ask you to go back and give us the Fire Foundation report, and then you can add anything you want to beyond that.
So the foundation has not met in January, and we didn't have a December meeting, so there's no report yet from the foundation.
Okay. Anything
And I
else?
have nothing. Nope, we're good.
All right. Well, the rainy weather and the holidays have taken it out of all of us. Okay, that leaves me. So I will talk about a couple of things. I hope you were all entertained by the photos that I sent around earlier. I think my favorite is the 1960s era Czech fire engine. I believe that, I'm not sure that that's an actual Czech production. I think that's built on a French Citroen chassis, but I'm not sure. Certainly, like all of the glass, that's quite a thing. And I can tell you that there is a fabulous fire museum in Ostrava, an industrial city on the east side of the Czech Republic, where my wife is from. It's built in an old fire station. And at the time that I was there, this is a number of years ago, the gentleman who was in charge of the museum had formerly been the fire chief. We were with my then 9-year-old nephew, and he got quite a thrill out of being hoisted and playing an apparatus and getting dressed up and what have you. The only other thing I have to add is we're experiencing quite a weather phenomenon. I hope everybody is safe and as dry as possible. As some of you know, I live on the San Rafael Canal, and we are looking at some high tide conditions coming up on the 19th through the 23rd of this month, with the 21st and 22nd being the extreme highs of more than 7 feet. And the conditions that cause the canal to flood historically, and it's happened a couple times in the 33 years that I've been here, are a 7-foot or greater tide combined with heavy runoff from a storm. But the critical thing is wind, and a wind from the west lifts the water levels in the entire bay. A wind from the east concentrates the lift in the canal. And I don't know what the winds are going to look like in a week and a half, but there's a distinct possibility that we're going to have some flooding. And in 90, I think it was 97, February 7th and 8th of 97, the flooding extended out to East Francisco and was 6 inches deep in the showroom of the old Ford dealership. it's nothing to fool around with. As a matter of fact, I have pictures of I took a radio control sailboat, went out into the canal street and was sailing it up and down. So watch out for weather. We definitely have some extreme conditions. And that's all I have. So I'm happy to turn it over to Chief White.
Hello and Happy New Year, everyone. First, thank you for sharing those great photographs over the last couple of days. It was very nice to see something that piques my interest for sure from a historical standpoint and just from a entertainment standpoint as well. I'm going to start with the monthly report with the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority. And the MWPA's 21-22 annual report has been recently released and is located on the website. So please go to marinwildfire.org for more information. And I think you'll find, and when you take a look at that report, there was a great deal of work that was accomplished over the last year. And we anticipate that work to continue to grow and continue to draw down risk throughout the county. And so this morning we had our first MWPA Ops Committee meeting for the year. I'll be transitioning away from that responsibility effective today as I transition to the responsibility of Marin County Fire Chiefs Association president. And so I'll be hosting those meetings for the next 2 years. However, Stinson Beach Fire Protection District Fire Chief Jesse Perry will take on the ops chair responsibility of the MWPA. I'll still participate in the meetings, but I won't have the lead role as chairperson moving forward. And it looks like Dan Schwartz is going to continue on as the representative from the board of directors and from the towns and cities themselves to help provide supplemental subject matter expertise and guidance on that ops committee. So a lot of information coming up, and they'll be working on the work plan for this coming year with a end date of May 3rd to submit to the board of directors all the final project proposals, budget, et cetera, et cetera. I won't get too much into that because that'll be part of next month's report, but I just wanted to give you a brief glimpse of what's going on. COVID, oh my, yours truly. I think I shared with you this last meeting we had that I had caught COVID at the end of November and right around Thanksgiving. Unfortunately for me, COVID must have lowered my immunity because for 2 separate instances since that time, I was sick with both fever and or chest conditions, chest cough, if you will. Finally, this past week, I took some medication called azithromycin, and it was the red capsules, 2 one day, and then 1 each of the next 4 days. And it actually seemed to knock out the fever I had and the cough, which I was completely surprised because that's a antibiotic. It's not something for virus. And I just wondered how are they going to treat a virus with antibiotics? But
Antibiotic, yeah.
I guess that's what their start was, and their start actually worked for me. So all that to say, I'm encouraging folks to still continue to consider masking because there is an evolution of COVID still taking place right now with new variants on the horizon. And I'll touch base on that in just a moment. But if you recall this time last year, the Omicron variant was creating havoc, causing a lot of infections, a lot of hospitalizations, and some deaths. And given that, those folks that actually were infected with Omicron, they believe between those and those who have been vaccinated, there's still some immunity out here in the population, which has reduced the number of individuals who are either hospitalized or maybe facing even worse outcomes from having been infected with Omicron. So the subvariants that are now out here spread a lot more easier than the previous ones. And they say none more easier or faster or more infectious than the current variant known as XBB.1.5. They say this variant started recently on the East Coast, which I found surprising, but somehow or another it's one of like 14 or 15 variants they've identified since this past April. And they say this variant in and of itself, if you've not had COVID up to this point, you're likely to get COVID with this variant. I don't know if they do that just based on the number of individuals in the population who haven't had COVID or just on the extreme infectious nature of this new variant. It doesn't appear to be a severe variant at this point, requiring a lot of hospitalizations and or severe outcomes. That being said, the numbers may be a little bit off. And the reason for that is they figured about this time last year, 11 million test results were provided. This time this year, same time this year rather, 2.5 million results are known. Many other folks are testing at home and may not be reporting their status as testing positive. So the numbers are not, they haven't really studied to confirm what the numbers truly are from those individuals who are not reporting or who have self-tested. So COVID is still present, it's still with us, and it still remains a risk to adults over the age of 65. So consider strongly, please continue to mask, social distance as necessary. And if there are new booster vaccinations and otherwise that come forward, I'd give them some serious consideration. When I had COVID, I was very fortunate. I didn't feel like I had the severe form of COVID. In fact, I was almost in denial about the possibility of it until my other half, Tracy, asked me to test because she said I didn't look right. And I just thought I felt a little feverish, but other than that, COVID ironically didn't even cross my mind. And when I tested that night, I was just mortified. I couldn't believe it had happened to me. So just don't take it lightly. Please test, please continue to mask and prepare yourselves, or protect yourselves rather.
Happened to me mid-December.
Oh, same thing, huh? Yeah,
Same thing.
yeah.
I got whacked for 7 days.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you're still here with us and doing fine. I wouldn't have known if you hadn't told us. So the other part of this that's alarming is the reports coming out of China that the Chinese government has opted to allow individuals to come freely into and out of China, despite after them lifting the recent lockdowns, the number of people that are infected and or being hospitalized is almost mirroring what we saw when the virus first started almost 3 years ago. And so there becomes a question of what's really truly going on. Other countries are alarmed at what they believe they have as good intelligence, and they're requiring individuals coming from China to be tested for COVID prior to entering their country. I think that's creating some political back and forth between China and some of the other countries in the world. But I say that to say, if hospitalizations are up there, then maybe they've got even a more extreme variant that could be landing elsewhere around the world here in the near future. I'm certainly hoping, I don't want to be the conspiracy theorist, but if all the reports are accurate, it doesn't bode well for us. And it looks like COVID may be here for some time to come, despite the governor's orders, which will require us to come out of emergency orders at the end of February and go back to in-person meetings. That could very well be something that gets revisited if, in fact, we start facing another severe situation with the new variants that are coming. So I don't want to be the predictor of doom and gloom, but I just want everyone to understand that this is the information I'm processing right now. Moving on, Marin County Fire Dispatch update. Last month, right before the holiday break, myself, City Manager Schutz, Nadine, my senior management analyst, Thomas Wong, myself, and Chief Weber and his representative, Charlotte Jourdain, all sat and met to discuss fire dispatch and whether or not the city of San Rafael would be interested in trying to join with the other agencies to agree to a contract for services, not much unlike the services that the sheriff had provided, but still with maybe some added benefit to the San Rafael Fire Department and all the other fire agencies by virtue of us coming together and still not being fragmented, but being part of one dispatch center and identifying technology needs and other things that could help the departments all as we move forward this decade. That being said, there's still more information that needs to be generated from the county and their representatives, and we're still awaiting that information before we can confirm and verify that this is something that really makes sense for the San Rafael Fire Department and our community members moving forward. So more to follow on that. I'm hoping that they're going to provide some data here in the very near future, because it's going on 3+ weeks since the request was made. The individual that generates the data, however, was overseas at least, I believe, 2 weeks or more of that time that we were off. So I hope to have more report or more updated and current report on our status at next month's meeting. Station 54 and 55. Wow, those things are coming along beautifully. We do have a couple of small glitches and small issues that have surfaced since the heavy rains and what have you. That being said, there was also something that was brought to our attention this past weekend about something listed as the address that says Point of San Pedro as opposed to Point San Pedro. So that's a point of contention that will need to be addressed between our Public Works and Wickham and Associates and their crews who have delivered that item. But that being said, I've been inside 55. I haven't been inside 54 yet, but I left the image of 54, the drawing, the conceptual drawing of what 54 should look like, and it looks very, very eerily close to what I'm seeing right now as final development at Station 54 on Castro Street. The things I haven't seen really flushed out right now are the decks on the front of the building, as well as the side of the building. There looks like 3 apparatus bays right now, even though they're not apparatus bays. The way as you see the construction move forward, it has that appearance. All that to say, the crews we're hoping to come in ahead of time and have our members back in the stations well before January. I think the weather has kind of tempered some of that opportunity for us to be able to get in a little bit sooner. But this is something that's being well received and anticipated by our members who've been waiting quite some time for this as we continue to finalize the Essential Facilities Project and program that all of you have been, an integral part of over the last several years. Thank you for that, and I'll give you the final information on the move-in dates for both locations. Hopefully, by the time we meet next month, that will be information I can share, is that they've already moved in and are operating out of those stations. Fire incident. And I don't want to go into a whole lot of detail about this particular incident, but I think it was certainly something that I had not expected or even experienced here in San Rafael since my tenure, which will be 3 years in April. We had a third alarm incident with 20 some odd individuals displaced at 400 Canal Street, which is a 99 unit building. That particular unit that caught fire was under construction, under remodeling. And given the void space and where the fire started, that investigation is just completed. I just got that report, not yesterday, the day before. And by all intents and purposes, it looks like an accidental start. The cause and origin have been determined. And the irony of the situation is they were doing some work, and the individual left to go out to move their car. When they came back, they had been doing some soldering. And when they came back, they noticed a little bit of smoke in the ceiling. And so somehow or another, some radiant heat or convected heat got into that space. When they went to open the ceiling with a hammer to try to ensure or inspect what they were looking at, black smoke started. And so it clearly was something that started brewing a little while before they left to probably go out to move their car, and they just weren't aware of it. Perfect timing being what it is, went to the car, was gone 15, 20 minutes, came back, and now you've got a problem. And so this started on the second floor and it spread quickly to the third floor through the void spaces. Our crews did an excellent job of doing something that I haven't seen done very often, except on apartment complexes or on, some of our other, oh, come on, I can't even think of the term right now. It's just on the tip of my thoughts. The type of the location where you'll have multiple businesses and then they all have common roofing. The trench cut is designed to stop lateral fire spread at the point of the roof in the void space there. And they did it, and it stopped the number of units that were impacted to just literally 6 units. The one unit itself and 5 others, it sustained some smoke and water damage. And so my hat's off to our crews for getting there quickly and doing everything to try to get ahead of this fire, because it could have actually displaced a lot more individuals. It was an extremely cold day. It hadn't rained a whole lot from what I recall, but it started raining later on. And then we had assistance from multiple agencies throughout the county that assisted with either covering in with or coming directly to the incident. And We had assistance from individuals performing from our McFit team, from Novato Fire, as well as Kentfield. San Rafael Police Department, they were excellent in coming in and providing supplemental aid and traffic control. And I was happy to state there were no injuries. There was, substantial loss given, 6 units impacted. But those 26 or so individuals who've been displaced were receiving assistance from Red Cross and at one point from the actual owners of the building, just trying to ensure that they had housing until this situation is resolved. Chief Senate is working with the building representatives to ensure that the fire protection systems, the alert notification systems, and the other systems are properly restored and up to code and up to our standards, so that everything will operate the way it's intended to when reoccupied. That being said, there's some photos there also in the report of the location and the actual unit area where this occurred. Last but not least, a look back in time. Volunteers and 2 fire chiefs. Trying to do a little research and piece together some of the history of the department. And I actually went to the web and found some information, but it turns out we had a few individuals who had a father-son that were fire chiefs in the department. More that will follow on that later. But we had a couple of photographs of individuals. I'll try to show it to you now in case you didn't see it. This shows San Rafael Fire Department volunteers. The top page, there are 2 individuals who both have chief insignia on their collars and their badge, as well as their caps. The other individuals are actually assistant chiefs and battalion chiefs and captains. The irony of that is that you very seldom see 2 fire chiefs side by side in a photo. And so that piqued my curiosity. I believe Mr. Castro was the first of the 2 chiefs, followed by Mr. Johansson. I haven't confirmed that, but I'm hoping to do so. There is some information that showed who one of the first fire chiefs was. It was a paid chief, and I believe his name was Schuer. And he's the individual who had a father that was fire chief about 30 or 40 years prior. So there's a little bit of piecing together that can still happen. And I believe after Clarence Johansson was fire chief, it moved into more than likely Wayne Trivett being chief from 1960 until 71. And then one of the greatest tenures I've ever seen, which would be the chief that served from 71 until roughly maybe about 2 or 3 years before Chief Gray got here. And that would be our, oh my God, come on.
Bob Marcucci.
I'm sorry, Bob Marcucci. I know a Marcucci who's from Santa Clara, and I was about to say his name by mistake. So, which is his nephew, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
It works for Cal Fire. So Bob Marcucci, I believe, was the chief that covered a substantial portion of the history of the fire department, almost 1/5 of it, if you think of it. And so given that, Bob Marcucci is also part of the Rotary Club of San Rafael that I'm part of. And I'm hoping that Chief Marcucci will be willing to take a photograph for our 150th anniversary, even though I know that may be a long shot. I'm hoping to convince him to do so that he can be added to the 150th anniversary release when we come up with a yearbook and some of our other celebratory things in 2024. So that being said, just a glimpse at the past, but if anyone could ever give me any information as to why we had 2 fire chiefs side by side who were both San Rafael fire chiefs in that photo, I'm going to assume that somehow or another there was either a transition of power that was taking place right around the time of the photographs, or maybe there was just something else that I'm not familiar with that I'd like to be able to explore a little bit deeper. But I thought this was interesting, and that's why I shared it this month. With that, that concludes my report. And if there are any questions, I'm available.
I don't know the answer to your question about the 2 fire chiefs, but that framed photo hung in Station 52 for many years, and we took it down in the days prior to demolition of 52. Actually, I think the person I would call is Captain Steve Davis, who was pretty much at 52 for a big chunk of his career. Okay, one thing that I want to go back on, which I took slightly out of sequence, is the note-taking assignments. Did everybody get a copy of that? And anybody want to propose to accept that?
I propose we accept the minute-taking assignments as presented by our chair.
Very
I
good.
second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Okay. That
Oh, yeah.
passes. Okay, that passes. All right, well, the one other thing that I would toss out as a little teaser is that meetings, February and March, and after that, I am turned out as a member of the Fire Commission and chair. So be thinking about who you would like to nominate, because that's something that we'll take up at the March meeting. If there's any other business, I'm happy to entertain it now. Otherwise, there being nothing more, I will gavel the meeting closed at 4:37. Thank you all very much. Stay dry, stay safe, and hope to see you next month, if not before.
Great.
All right.
Thank you all. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.